LFC Agenda, we are back up in the place for the final time this season. Oof, it's been a long road. It's been an emotional road, but we've reached the end of the season, and Liverpool have failed to win yet again. But there's lots of stuff to talk around the match. It ended Liverpool 1. It ended Brentford 1. A draw in Mo Salah and Andy Robertson's final Anfield appearances. Jez was there, and she joins us today. Welcome, Jez.
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
So we had the night off from talking about this, but now we must face reality. The Reds failing to win yet again. We're not going to obsess over the result because ultimately the pathway or the gateway to Champions League football was open for us, and we finally got over the line. Are you surprised that it took us until the final day of the season to confirm Champions League football for 2026-2027?
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, it was in our hands. 3 points, just needed 3 points. That was like one win. Like this should have been done and dusted 3 games ago, if not even before that. You know, the fact that we were like, we got to really try and get ourselves over the line, and you know, Sabosai going, if you're not careful, be like Conference League on the rest of it. You know, it was just some of these teams we were playing as well. Like this Reds, man, should have been done a long time ago. But we are where we are. And mission accomplished. You know, the bare minimum has been accomplished, I should say, more than mission accomplished. But yeah,
it doesn't feel right to say mission accomplished, does it? Because bare minimum, as you say, I think it's like sub bare minimum. Because to me, bare minimums you finish top 3. You know, based on all the factors we're aware of and what we achieved last season. Yeah. It's at least a positive thing if you want to say that the manager, the exiting players, the captain all agree that this season was far from good enough. But what's your overriding feeling from the experience of being at the match yesterday? Because it was quite an emotionally triggering occasion for those that were there, with the departure of, in particular, one of the greatest players ever to pull on a red shirt, Salah.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of emotion. You know, people really, I think it really was that signal that this is the end of what has been a great era and a great ride for us. You know, we've had so many highs. We've had a lot of lows with the Jurgen Klopp era, and a lot of people say that that Klopp won the league last season with Jurgen Klopp's team, because only Chiesa was there in addition to that squad last season. But it really kind of just, the end of an era, and actually there's a lot of sentiment, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of just so many highs and so many like first time moments, I think, for a lot of people, whether it's like the first time ever or the first time in a long time. You know, with the first league title that we won in 2020, you know, winning the Champions League 2019, and there's a lot of fans that just never ever seen that before, or a lot of fans that haven't seen it for the 30 odd years and beyond. So yeah, and there was a real positive like atmosphere around the game. You know, you see all the bars around the ground with balloons like blowing up with like spelling out Mo Salah. I bumped into a fan wearing an Egyptian outfit, like the crown and the cape. And she was, and I had to go say something. So I ran up to her going, "Oh my gosh, I really love your outfit." She's like, "I feel a bit strange being the only one, but about to meet my mum. She's dressed up the same, and she's in the Zimmer frame." I was like, "Oh my god, fair play to your mum," And then there was another fan with like an Egyptian kind of headdress on. So yeah, there was a lot of love, and he saw the same also people like with Scotland representation with their outfits and everything. So yeah, it was full of a lot of anticipation for what was and turned out to be an emotional send-off at the end of the game.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, were you dressed in a kilt or a pharaoh costume?
Oh, no, unfortunately not. I was kind of dressed in my kind of, I don't know, bitch in rest base. I was like, done with this season, like, what my head? Because there was that whole, we get so used to it. We've been spoiled, I think. For the last few seasons, like really feel like we're going into the final game, but there isn't a play for, like you kind of said at the start of this, and not having it. Obviously, there's been all the kind of socials that are coming out from the club, from the individual players. Robert's done stuff with other kind of on my platforms other than the club. Salah's done his things with the club as well. So yeah, and then Sky get involved, and TNT Sport get involved. So there's been an awful lot of talk around these two players. But yeah, it was kind of, we just need to just sign off, draw the line under this season, and then we'll go again.
I suppose we'd better talk about the football match that took place. As I said, it was Liverpool 1, Brentford 1. And it was poor, wasn't it? But then, in keeping with what we've seen this season, as in Liverpool unable to string together, even on the last game of the season in front of the fans, a comprehensive, fulfilling, structured 90-minute performance. Did you see it the same way as I did in that sense, or would you give them more credit?
No, I think it was like you just said. It was the same old. You know, that they just kind of turned up. There wasn't a lot of energy. There wasn't a desire. Actually, even on both sides, I was quite surprised by Brentford. I was like, you've got something to play for. You know, you could really like bolster your European qualification by getting a win out of this. I kind of thought that they'll come out at us a lot harder than they did in both halves, really. But it just kind of felt like a formality game more than anything. You know, it's like, yeah, we need to play it, and then we'll move on. Even though we hadn't completely secured Champions League football, it kind of was almost one of those, it was mathematically kind of ours. We just needed to, you know, to kind of finish that game, really. But
a bit pre-season friendly-ish, no? I felt is a bit lethargic. I don't know if the heat played an impact or what it was, but I don't know. They it's not like Brentford are like a super testing opposition, is it? They just seemed lacking energy, which I thought was really strange. Liverpool for this occasion,
lacking energy. I guess because, you know, it's almost like they just wanted to get the game out of the way, preserve themselves. You know, there's few of them going off to the World Cup. You know, people don't want to get injuries in the last Premier League game before they go and join their national squads. So it was just the kind of, let's just get into the 90 minutes and be done. And that was the feeling. I think that without the departures that we had with the squad with Salah and Robertson, I think that was what was driving the atmosphere more than actually what we were serving up on the pitch. And without that, it would have been hard. It would have been another hard watch.
So no goals in the first half. How did you see? And I'm gonna spare you, but ask you not to dwell into really specific detail. But the first 45 minutes. But how did you see that first half and how the Reds started? And to you, did you see it the same way as me? As in, it was a familiar pattern of a bit of huffing and puffing, but never looked like blowing Brentford's house down.
Yeah, you know, kind of needed to move the ball quicker. We've said before, you know, need to move all the players around. We've said before, Gakpo up front as a number 9 doesn't work. We've said before, Rio, you know, he kind of offered and gave you a bit of excitement because you thought, okay, he's going to try to take the man on. You know, midfield weren't really there. Like I say, Brentford didn't really cause many real problems. I think there was that moment first half when they got the free kick, and it was, you know, I was kind of cop side and looking at it. It was like to the right of their goal as they saw it, but to the left, and I was just like, I don't think that's a left footer on that one. That's a right footer. So that's got to be Szoboszlai rather than Salah. And then Salah popped up and hit the post. I was like, well, what do I know then? I think Taylor said that to those.
Yeah, from the free kick.
What do I know? You know, so I think it was almost like people waiting for that moment, like hoping that he would sign off with a goal, or even Robbo maybe getting a goal. But yeah, other than that, I think there was a chance where Szoboszlai managed to wriggle himself through and kind of shot across goal, where he should have been done better. I think the main kind of stand up for me with that first half was that save from Alisson Becker with his feet. I mean, because they kind of one chance that Brentford actually fashioned for themselves. You know, they were kind of clean through on goal, and Alisson being Alisson did what Alisson does best. And you know, there were some murmurs going, you know, if that was Mamadashvili, that's 1-0 down. But you know, not to say talk bad of those who weren't on the pitch, but Alisson just showed you what he could do. But yeah, I think other than that, there wasn't much to say. Other than the break, the drinks break was a bit bizarre. Nobody really expected that, and it was just like
I think that was across all matches, right?
Was it all matches? Because I was like, okay,
so
it's hot.
Kind of inputted into the pre-season feel a little bit because people just stopped looking around. And I thought, oh, we're going to see a raft of substitutions now.
Yeah, and exactly. And then even we just all sat down. Like we always stand up. We're in the stand. It's like, oh well, if you're having a break, I'll have a break as well. Thank you very much. Take the weight off my feet.
Other people wandered off their half-time drink.
Half-time.
Okay, well, 2 goals did arrive in the second half, Jez. On the 57th minute, our boy Curtis Jones slots home the record-breaking, we keep saying that right up to the death, assist for Mohamed Salah, which is wonderful to see. And the club appreciated that, particularly in the first half, because he unfortunately just clipped the post of his free kick. So that was a lovely moment, and it was more about Salah than it was Jones, wasn't it, really? Because he had a tap in, and he was in the right place at the right time. Tidy finish. But even the celebrations there seemed a bit. Get this game over with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even that went to VAR because I think it paused for a bit and then it kind of flashed up on the screen. And we were like, really? Like that was so blatantly a decent goal, but they could get in and spoil the party. Both in Stockley Park, but yeah, we just felt a bit like okay. But you never really felt. I didn't feel even with that one that they didn't show that they were going to go on and push on either.
I was disappointed that they were unable to keep a clean sheet, and I think 6 minutes after that goal went in.
Yeah, 6
for Curtis Jones, Kevin Schade gets a diving header. It felt a bit scrappy again. How did you see that goal? Because one of the things that we need to see in advance of next season isn't just the team being more cohesive and threatening as an attacking force, but also want to see signs of optimism defensively. And again, we didn't get that.
Yeah. But it just kind of felt like, here we go again. And I think with that, they didn't create that much. I think when I was looking at the stats after the game, was it like they had 2 on target or something? And I think that was probably their first on target. And it was just like, and I think even the managers come out and said that their teams that don't have that many chances against us, their shot to goal conversion seems to be ridiculously high, regardless of who it is that we're playing. And they kind of just felt, and you even saw them, the kind of, they were real dejected, like they were down, and it almost kind of felt like, gosh, is there going to be a second one for Brentford coming? Because you kind of felt a bit deja vu because they didn't show much from what they were offering. But yeah, the lack of clean sheets has been really worrying all season.
Yeah, I just found it so dejecting to see that goal going. And what's interesting when you mention again the recognition from Slot that the problem is there, but the lack of ability to be able to fix it. If this guy Xhaka that comes in is amazing, whoever they bring in defensively is amazing. There's still concern over the coaching for me, and why should it be so easy to score against us? And for him to be able to see that, and for him to be able to identify those patterns, but not do anything about it. That for me is the concerning thing. It's fine if he's a pundit, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's the manager of the club. So, I mean, just looking ahead quickly, how much faith do you have in him being able to fix it? Because let's not forget, we did have a similar thing with Lovren and co early on in Klopp's career, and people did doubt him defensively as a coach.
Yeah, but I think we've kind of talked it a lot on the pod. It's the lack of intensity that makes it easy for people. There's no pressure on the ball. They're not pressing. They're not kind of impacts. If anyone does make any movement, they're going in as individuals and leaving a lot of space behind them. And my thing is always like, cut it off at source. Don't let it get that far where they can be in a position to put in a really effective cross or have a decent shot at goal, and that for me is the worry. And yes, we've had a lot of injuries, but Van Dijk's played every minute, I think, hasn't he, in the Premier League? So he's been
one of our biggest problems. Yeah.
He's been a regular. Well, yeah, you can say that, but I think my point is that there are some players that have been there all throughout. It's not like everybody's chopped and changed so much. So it's kind of like, well, if you can't get the personnel who have at your disposal to do the basic things, then does it? What else is anyone new coming in going to do? And these are people who are seasoned, who are experienced. The only kind of new person in defence has been Kirkes. But he was established in the Premier League. Okay, we've rotated the right back a lot because when after Bradley's injury, but even the midfield pretty much has been the same thereabouts. So there's not been that much difference in those core kind of central positions. And yeah, my gosh, if you're going to make Szoboszlai play right back and he can do a decent job in a position that's not really his, you have to ask questions about how is he not getting players in the positions that they're playing regularly to be effective in those. So
yeah,
and so I don't think that really answers your question. I don't quite know. I don't know what he can do. I don't know if he can do it. But
Jez, I just want the answer to our defensive solutions. At this point, you can't give me that.
No, I can't. Unfortunately, not at this time.
But the manager can't.
The manager can't. It's all just imprinted in my mind. The nightmares. It's nightmares. But
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a combination. Is it a combination of personnel? Is it a combination of tactics? I would say I think it's a mixture of the two rather than one or the other. What we can do about the personnel, we'll see. But we'll definitely talk about tactics.
We shall see. And we're going to have plenty of time to look back at the season in detail. Later on, you'll be hosting a end of year season retrospective on June the 9th. So look forward to that. I know there's lots to get our teeth stuck into for then, but one thing I did want to ask you about the season was, what do you think, if you could pick one thing that's been our biggest Achilles heel, going from champions to the relative mediocrity that we've seen this year, what would you identify that as being?
The biggest Achilles heel? I can't just say one thing. The only Achilles heel that really troubling me is Ekadike's, because it's knackered at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
know you got lots to choose from.
I know not to choose on. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think we can't take away too much from the Jota loss and the impact on that. I think I saw something from Verge kind of this week. They've not alluded to it, not wanted to draw attention to it. But I think, I think you said something about, that happens and you go into like playing a game every 3 days. The West is have all the space to process that. I think you've got new players who are brought in to bring something different to the squad, who are actually coming into an environment that nobody could ever be prepared for. With that, people dealing with the loss of one of their friends, their brother, as they call each other, and then also having to get up to the pace of the Premier League with what would have been a very disruptive pre-season, as well as players coming in who've not had a pre-season. So there's a lot, and I think, I don't know, Salah keeps alluding to things are going to come out, and what that will be, I guess we'll see. We'll see if we know that by the time.
There's going to be more fire.
Kind of see the review, how fire, hell, and the rest of it. So to see the angel of death and the rest of it coming out. But yeah, I think for me, I think it was a lot of change. There was a mass change, and then you have that as well to contend with. And so I think that that kind of pace of change, that squad clear out was just felt too much for me in terms of those who've gone, and then actually you're then relying on people quite new and fresh to it all to then kind of slot right in.
Yeah,
and that takes time. So
to answer my own question, I would say failing to seal the deal for a good really good defender to come through the door in time at the end of the window. And we know our target was Mark Gay. I think in a scenario where Mark Gay, that deal gets done and he comes through the door, Van Dijk's having to play less. He's having to be less of like a crutch for us repeatedly. Because he didn't get any rest time, did he really?
No.
And also there's slightly better competition for some of the others who, let's face it, have not really performed to that level. Plus, he's someone he's got that mentality, hasn't he, of setting high standards. So that's what I would say. But
then at the time, he would have been a great addition.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to turn off Match of the Day when it was like the Palace Arsenal games. Like, I can't watch this. Not only just the Arsenal trophy, but like Glasgow, I was like, dude, man, we were that close to getting Gay. Like, I can't even look at your face. I can't look at your face. But I think it'd been at that point, I don't know how much rest Van Dijk could have got, because I love Ibu, but he's the one who needed to be rested for a large chunk of this season. So yeah, I think Gahey coming in would have helped, but I think we needed two, didn't we?
Yeah, ideally. Okay, so shout out Miss Summage, who's in the chat. It says great send-offs for Salah and Robbo. And Robbo did mention lack of pre-season off the back of the Jota tragedy. Robbo is apparently off to Spurs pretty soon. Must be good money over there. But he got a wonderful send-off and deserved it. I was so happy that also, and you can talk about this because you witnessed it firsthand, that aside from Salah and Robbo, also Henderson, which Mrs. Samage mentions, got really good reception too. So talk about that moment, and if you joined in.
Oh yeah, no, I did. And you know what? It was. I kind of go back to before the end of the game with the send-offs, but it's when they were substituted, and then they kind of did that guard of honor, and I was just like, okay, what's going on? I was like, dude, you need to hurry up. This referee's gonna start booking you for like time wasting. And it was just a bit, and I can see the Brentford players looking around going, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? We're all a bit baffled. And they did not, I think, was it Salah went off first, didn't he? And then Robbo was substituted after. And then they did the same thing again. And I was just like, heads are going to roll. But at the same time, I was just like, yeah, I quite like this. Just let's mess things up a little bit. Like, why not? Let's just piss off the opposition and everybody else. So that was nice, for the players to kind of to do that. No, I did see that. I think they did it in the City game as well. I think.
Yes, with Bernardo and Stones.
Yeah, got involved. So maybe I don't know if there was some kind of conversation amongst players across clubs or something. I don't know. It was just interesting. Not so much when the ball went up at the end and it was 10 minutes. I was like, oh, we're done. We want it to finish like 10 minutes more. We don't want 10 minutes more of this season. But anyway, so that was a really nice moment, and the acknowledgement from the crowd. But yeah, at the end of the game, I think it was Liverpool were very good at doing this. I kind of there's no speeches, and I did stay for quite a while at the end of the game. So if I'd gone a little bit too early, and this, but they all kind of did the guard of honor. They kind of made the announcement, and the players came up, applauded the crowds. You could see how emotional they both were. But yeah, it was beautifully done. It was quite interesting actually how all the players, even including the captain, even including the manager, it was all about Salah and Robbo. Van Dijk sat on almost the halfway line, just letting them have their moment. Salah was closest to the carpet, kind of like run the penalty spot. Robbo was a bit further back. But yeah, you could see that emotion, and so many of the fans stayed, so many of the fans sang. You had the repertoire, you had the Salah's earlier Salah song, about going down to the mosque and everything. That song came out. Obviously his main one, Robbo's song, Never Walk Alone, rang out a number of times, and yeah, it was just all about those two just taking it in. And yeah, it was beautifully done. It was just them with their kids, and then after about 10 minutes or so, I think then all the other players' kids, they came out on the pitch as they generally do. But yeah, no, it was nice, and it was nice that the focus was just on them, and like I said, the opportunity just to to take it all in. Going to Henderson. Go on.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to come back to Henderson. Go ahead.
No, saying even Henderson as well. Because Salah referenced that he really hoped that Henderson and both Kelleher coming back kind of would have got a send off that they didn't get because obviously when after the season had concluded when they did actually leave the club. So it was nice that Henderson got his moment. It was quite interesting actually that when the final whistle had gone, the Henderson started main stand, Cop, second Dalglish stand, and for Road End. And then he got to the Brentford fans. I was like, oh, there you go. So he knew where he was.
They can join him too.
Yeah. So, he acknowledged the Liverpool crowd before, the fans of the team he now plays with. But yeah, it was a real touching moment for him. And I even saw a video, I think, when the players had gone off the pitch and they came out, and before Salah came out, he was in the tunnel with Henderson. And they both shared the moment as well. And I was just like, you're always a captain, aren't you, Hendo? You're always a captain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was beautifully done.
I mean, that's a lovely end to season for me. He's got a hectic summer because he's still in the England squad. We'll come on to that.
Yeah. But yeah, just to kind of just also say about that, I think it was a bit kind of bittersweet for me as well because I had the first game of the season. They had like the crowd mosaic for Jota and his brother, and and you had Salah. He stayed out really, really long after the final whistle. There, emotional, in tears, taking in the crowd, and then to finish it off, with a Mohamed Salah mosaic, as he goes and the same sort of thing, and it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, he said he's not a super emotional person, but you could see yet again. Tears came. He had his daughters there and his wife, and the moment just overwhelmed him. And he was happy to let it wash over him, wasn't he? But Robbo was just a stern face. No, you can see it got him as well. But I think there's like full on waterworks for Salah, wasn't it? So that was good to see. In a emotional way.
Yeah.
Right. Are you surprised that it's just those two leaving? As far as we're aware, because you know what, I was looking down, partly because of the mediocre season that we've had, but also because I just thought it's time for certain people to move on. For example, Chiesa, Gomez. Do you think that we're likely to see those type of players when we come back, or is it just that they've not quite sorted out their futures and they wanted the focus to be on the other two?
I think that it's just, we don't. You mentioned this, Robbo potentially going to Spurs. We don't know where Salah's going. I don't think anything's really been said. I think for the others, I think it's waiting for people to come in for them, and they've not done enough for us. But I don't think they've done enough for anybody else to come in. I don't know what the wages are, and if that's an issue, which maybe puts off some people. But yeah, I think it's a case of there's probably a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to try and move them on, but there's just nobody biting really. I think with those two, I throw in Endo. He's just
that's true.
Sat there and not really done. We've not really seen him much this season.
He's essentially been earning his wedge for doing not a lot at all.
Yeah. So yeah, there are some. We've got some coming back, haven't we? Simicast coming back. Harvey Elliott's coming back, although I don't know if that's a transitional thing or if he's like coming back to them play. I guess not, given that they were happy for him to go on that weird contract or agreement deal that they did with Villa to go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think. But
Double S says that hopefully the Gaffer will be joining that list of departees. So can you imagine if they had? Because I had a theory in my mind that might happen, that the club actually might announce his departure ahead of the game, so he could get a send off. Now, many people, if they're following what the noise in the media seems to be suggesting, might think that no, he's going to get another season. I'm still convinced that you cannot survive the level of noise and negativity that's been in the press. But Conversely, he's been very vocal about next year, what we're going to do better. This year, injuries, blah, 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 blah. Maybe, we shouldn't expect anything different. But in my mind, I struggle to picture him there next year.
Yeah.
Right now, if you had to put money on it, would you be more inclined to say that he's going to stay or depart in the summer?
Depart, and I think that's the general feeling and sentiment in the ground and everyone outside it. I think people have just had enough, and it's not necessarily a case of it just solely being the season that we've had in terms of performances, league finish, or whatever. I think it's the fact that nobody can quite see where this is going, or nobody can quite see how it can get better. I think that kind of goes back to your questions you were asking at the beginning of the pod. Everybody's just a bit baffled, really. And I think that even if you can't see a way out, if you can't see a way out, it's one thing. If you can't believe you can get out, I think is a bigger thing. And I think that's where a lot of people are. Like, people really just don't see how we're going to get out of this funk that we're in, because people don't trust that he has that ability to.
That's such a great word you use there, funk, and that's what it is. It's like an emotional stupor. Like like you just had a bit too much to drink. You just need to sober up. You need to reset and refresh. And Liverpool have just been like zombies through this season. That's never a positive indicator for the future for a manager if it just becomes regulation, just dross.
Yeah.
Throughout the season.
Definitely. And I think that it all comes down also to momentum. It's the momentum that you can start season with, but momentum that you end the season with as well. And I think that we saw that at the back end of last season, after we won the title, the momentum really, really dropped off, but nobody really was that bothered. We were just waiting to actually get our hands on the trophy. Everything
we were busy raving, Jez.
Oh gosh, I wish I was in Ibiza
busy in
Dubai and all the rest of it. But and that momentum kind of went into this season. Okay, we did really well in the first 5 games, and that was more, I think, luck more than design. But even when we've got Champions League qualification in our hands, and we just need 3 points, which is just 1 win, and you've got Chelsea who came into that game 6 defeats on the bounce in the Premier League, and then you go against Villa, who, okay, you would have thought would be somewhat distracted by their European final, and then put 4 past us, and then you're going into a team who, okay, they didn't.
When's the last time we won a Premier League game? It feels like a good while ago.
Oh gosh, who even knows? I don't even know what that feeling is. But so even the momentum at the end of the season, when there's something to play for. Okay, if we were like 8th, 9th, 10th, which I think we should have been, if not worse, given what we've served up this season. Any other season, I think we're proper mid-table. So, but when you've got things to still play for, things that are within your hands, and you're still just half-assed, then it kind of worries you. Then, okay, is this now what we're going to see come, 22nd of August when the season kicks off again?
Need to kick up the button. Some people need to leave. All right, talking about people leaving, let's talk about the other Premier League stories, because it was the final day of the season. There was lots at stake. We know Brentford had an opportunity to possibly qualify for... Bournemouth had an opportunity to qualify for Champions League football. Had Villa finished 5th and we finished 4th. That didn't happen because Villa went to City and won, which wasn't on many people's bingo cards. And it was also coinciding with Pep Guardiola's big goodbye alongside John Stones and Bernardo, 2 staples over the past 9 years or so. They've both been excellent players. We can say that objectively as Liverpool fans, right? And Pep Guardiola has been absolutely immense, hasn't he? For all the 115 chat, you cannot really you cannot really say anything about the guy and his abilities to motivate, to keep coming back, motivate himself, to find new ways to win, to be so consistent with the way he sets about his work. So I think it was classy of Andy Robertson to give him a shout out, as well as Seamus Coleman in his end of match interview. But focusing on Pep, any words from you? Because I think he's been fantastic and the league will miss him.
Oh, completely. I think what he did to City, think where they were, main road. They've been relegated, then come up. Yes, they got that stadium off the back end of the 2000 Commonwealth Games in Manchester, whatever, and that kind of started that. Yes, you might talk about the amount of money that's been pumped into the club that's enabled them to buy the players that have brought them that success. But you've got to give him credit in terms of that kind of freshness in terms of the new style of football. Actually, a lot of teams were trying to adapt, and we went toe to toe with them for so long. And it's one of those, if he wasn't there with City, Liverpool would have whacked up a couple more league titles, I think, as well. But I think for what he's done, not only just in England in the Premier League, he's shown that he's done it in the Bundesliga. He's shown that he's done it in the Liga, and then he's come over to the Premier League and won that raft of trophies and actually created what was a very intense, competitive period of football between City and Liverpool, which for the neutrals, I think, you couldn't deny what he did there, regardless of whether you supported City or not. So, yeah, I think the league is really gonna miss him. I think that we'll see about those 115 and what comes out with that, and if it's going to tarnish anything. But he's won what he's won, and yeah, I wish him all the best in whatever his next endeavours are going to be.
Yeah, we always dreamt of the day he left and the fact it would leave the door ajar for us to lift more silverware. But right now, we're not in completely brilliant shape to be able to do that. And, two things. First of all, we can't forget that before him, they had won titles under Pellegrini.
They had.
Obviously, Mancini was the one who started it off. And had a lot of money spent, yeah, fine. But I think the most amazing thing for me has been how he's managed to constantly regenerate the team and energize himself. Because that was when Fergie, towards the end of his time at United, when I was looking back at what he'd done, that's the thing that struck me the most. It's not like he had a core of, 5, 6 players that you would say, okay, this was Fergie's team. Like, he regenerated, refreshed, and there were many phases to that team. And even within the 9-10 years, whatever it was that Pep was there, it wasn't just company. After that, it was Laporte. Then it was Diaz. He started with Aguero, and then after that, it was whoever, and Haaland. It was in every department. He was always looking for a way to recreate, to reset, and that's what Liverpool are going to need going forward. And I think also the challenge of Arsenal latterly, very different challenge to us, but keeping them at arm's length all the way up until this season. When the Gunners finally got over line, but even then was able to hoover up 2 trophies. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal, with him, just finish with that. I think also with him, the thing that was really, really look at him and kind of give him his props is that when it wasn't working out with certain players, they moved them on very quickly. So they didn't let players that just didn't fit in, then just sit there and kind of fester or kind of get involved. It's like, you know what, we brought you in, we thought you could do this, you clearly can't, off you go. And actually I kind of look at that with a bit of envy, because I'm kind of like, I wish that Liverpool had a bit of that ruthlessness to just go, do you know what, thank you, no thanks, and off you go, rather than just people sitting there warming the bench and then not doing anything. So, I really admire him for that. And I think also the fact, 4 back-to-back Premier League titles, I mean, as we know, it's hard enough to win one, isn't it? It's bloody hard to defend it because we failed twice in recent times. But, for them to do that, yeah, props to him.
Arsenal, we've got to give them their props. They won the Premier League, and they did it whilst sitting at the training ground, watching Man City struggle to 1-1 draw. Sorry, was it 1-1 draw? No. Did they lose the match?
I think no.
Anyway, they dropped points, and they lost the title, or whatever the score was. Yeah. And that lit the touch paper, I think, for celebrations that we've just been flooded with over social media. So credit to them. And they did lift the title at Crystal Palace on the weekend. Best part of it for me, speaking as a neutral with my neutral hat on, was the Eze story. Because if you recall, 12 months ago, Eze lifted the FA Cup for Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Then he was almost subjected to a move to Spurs, but that didn't go ahead. Arsenal swept in, took him in. He didn't have an amazing season, but he contributed. And then he comes back to lift the trophy at Crystal Palace, final game of the season.
Yeah.
So that to me is a great story. And if it was ever like an article, I'd read it. But
Yeah.
it's also good to see that the former club that he came from, they gave him his props as well, and he received a lot of positive vibes from those fans. They stuck around to see that moment. If you were to give Arsenal some credit, or something that may have warmed your heart regarding their slightly dour title-winning season, what would you say? Let's be generous.
You know, it's one of those. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and all you need to do is be better than everybody else, whatever that better looks like. We've amassed 97 points and not won it. Other than us talking about it, who else is really talking about it? You don't talk about whoever comes second. You talk about whoever comes first. If you win the league, what was it, 85 points? You win it with 85 points. If you win it mainly with set pieces, if you win it with not conceding any penalties or any red cards, and get a bit bitter here, can't you see? Then you do what you need to do, and so kind of props to them. They kept going, and there was a big psychological thing. I think I'd read Arteta go, and he doubted himself at some point. When City were coming back because they've lost it in that way before. So to kind of keep pushing yourself and to get over the line,
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah,
it's hard. And there was a graphic at some point, I think not long after City had beaten them, where it showed who was top of the Premier League at each week, or on the calendar or whatever, and you had us up until September, which kind of made me smile, but then made me cry. Then it was all Arsenal, then it was City, and then it was kind of like you never knew what was going to go. So psychologically, that's got to obviously be playing on your mind. But they got over that, and we'll see. It's going to be a period of Arsenal domination now. That is for them to show the rest of the league and the world what else it is that they could do. But
we shall see. And the story isn't over for them this season. They go to Budapest next Saturday, and there's an opportunity to do something that their club has never achieved, which is bring home that big shiny trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Big ears. At this moment in time, what percentage chance do you give them? I'm going with low 30s. What do you say?
15. I think I'll go lower than you.
You go half of that? Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. I'm surprised. Yeah. I thought you might go a bit higher. Why that low?
So I think that PSG I think they'll be too strong for them. Like too strong, and also the way that competition has been refereed compared to how the league's been refereed as well. I think that
Are you saying that you don't think they'll win with a scrappy corner where there's lots of pulling and pushing in the box?
No, because I think PSG are too strong for that. And I think they're too cute for that as well. So I think they will just like look at them, like brush them off like they're flies. I don't know. Maybe this is going to be a sandbox and come back and bite me in the bum after that game. But I think that PSG are just too strong, and they've got a lot of belief, because for them it's like the Champions League is their competition now. As defending champions. But it's gonna be a fascinating game, I think.
Absolutely, big clash of styles, massive pressure on Arsenal psychologically to get over that, because that must be, when you do it for the first time, it must just give you a certain level of confidence, right? And as a squad, it's exactly the same team minus Donnarumma that have been there last year. They know they're better. Yeah. They know they've done over Arsenal before, and they've crushed every English team they've come up against. So I pretty much expect the same, but there's always a chance. Always a chance. Is there a chance that the noise from Arsenal fans might dull down a little bit? Because I'm not celebration police here, but all I'm saying is Arsenal's become like a bit of a cult. Many people I didn't even know were into football at all have been donning their shirts and posting things over social media, and telling me that Saka's the greatest winger in the world and Raya's better than Manuel Neuer, and it's it's very noisy at the moment, isn't it?
It is, but we've been there. Like I said, we've waited 30 years for our Premier League title, and we were just as bad. You live in the moment and enjoy it. There's so many things that are not quite right with the world. When you have a moment where it is a good moment, then just embrace it and do everything. But I'm with you. I'm just like, oh, so when did you support them? And okay, let's have a conversation next time I see you. And I think even I saw something on social media about Arsenal fans back home in our motherland in Uganda,
in
and
Uganda,
yeah,
in Kenya.
all
It's global. But
over.
to be fair, even during iffier times, let's say, there's always been that strong fan base in places like Uganda. What I'm saying is more of the local noise coming from people who I honestly hadn't seen any football posts from before until this week. But good luck to them. Good luck to them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about a couple more stories around the Premier League. Everton, they failed to help out West Ham and help out the rest of us banter merchants by relegating Spurs. They went down 2-1.
Yeah.
Was it no 1-0? Sorry, I'm making up
1-0.
scores.
1-0.
1-0 at the Lane, whilst West Ham did their job 3-0. So I think deserved that West Ham go down. It was funny whilst it lasted, with Spurs flirting with the drop. And I wonder if you think that with De Zerbi in charge, we should expect them to come back strong next season.
Yeah, I think so. I think out of the two teams that were flirt with relegation, I think that Spurs have got the stronger chance of not being in that same position next season. Whereas I think that West Ham have always kind of been thereabouts, haven't they? Always kind of been threatened to get sucked in. Um, but yeah, I think that you see more from Spurs. I think it helps them that they can keep hold of some of those players who have underperformed, because they have performed at a decent level. So it's just a very bad season for them. But I think he'll turn it around, and I think they'll be more higher up the league. And given that they were kind of one of these like top six when they were talking about this European Super League breakaway group, I was like, when did you come into the mix? Like,
can you imagine the Super League had gone ahead and then they ended up in the Championship with that big old stadium?
Gosh, but yeah, I think that we'll see a better Spurs next season.
Yeah, I guess we should also give some shout outs to the other European qualifiers, because lots of new names. And as I said, Bournemouth almost made it into Champions League, but City couldn't help them out by beating Villa. Brentford, who we played, just failed. Had they won at Anfield, they would have been in the Conference League, but they were 3 goals short of Brighton on goal difference. So congratulations, Brighton. And massive shout out to Bournemouth and Sunderland for qualifying for Europa League, because many people had Bournemouth on their bingo card to go down, and I was one of them.
Yeah. You've done well. Boys did well.
Yeah. Okay, so before we leave, let us discuss England, because there is a World Cup around the corner, Jez. I don't know if you know. 11th June is kicking off, and it's all kicking off in the media world because people are slightly baffled, bemused by some of Thomas Tuchel, the England manager's selections, and more importantly, the players that he's left out of the frame. Which was the most shocking for you, or most eyebrow-raising omission for you?
I think Maguire, if I'm going to be honest with you. And not necessarily because I think that he's like the strongest defender, but he's always just been there, hasn't he? He's always been called up and always represented England. So, and I think even you can tell from the statement that he put out soon after that how shocked he was at his omission.
He actually put out the day before the squad actually came out. That was a weird aspect of it, isn't it? In this social media world, they'll try to keep it all under wraps, the FA. And the announcement itself was quite cool. But by then, everyone knew what was what. So, that I actually found that a really entertaining aspect of it, because certain players, like Maguire especially, were putting out statements before the squad had been announced, and then journalists started to leak news about the likes of Trent and
yeah,
Palmer and Foden. It just felt like, okay, with each passing hour, here's another player who we expected to go. Gibbs White being another
yeah,
from Nottingham Forest, who had a really good season in terms of output. Players that weren't going. So I think for me, it was Trent one. I think is a big mistake, but I don't think it was a surprise because he just
yeah,
doesn't like the kid. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just how it goes. And I
yeah,
don't think he, going into this season, Trent would have envisaged his stock dropping as it has. But to me, not taking one of Foden or Palmer, I think most people would lean towards
yeah.
Palmer. Was
What,
a
Palmer not
shocker.
going or Palmer going?
Most people would have lent towards Palmer being included, I
Oh,
think.
right, okay.
Yeah, I personally prefer Foden, even though he's not
Yeah,
really done it for England, and he's had chances in different positions. But I just think he's a more talented player, and we've seen is a guy who at 24, 25 has 6 Premier League trophies, been an integral part of a winning machine. And by the way, at his worst this season, he still had better outputs than Madueke or Eze, right?
mm,
But it's because he's not had the vibes, right? He's not started that strongly, but he's finished well. So had it been me, I would have included one of them. Probably would have been Foden, but that to me was the biggest shocker. What do you make of, particularly when you think of like those tight games during tournaments
mm,
where you think, okay, we just need a sprinkle of magic, someone who could potentially unlock the door here because it's a tight situation, and we've had it with Palmer before where he's done that against Spain in the
yeah,
final, but feels like a bit of a
yeah.
risk, you know, not even to have Gibbs White there out of those three. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Like I said, the Maguire thing, like you, I kind of did chuckle a little bit, but I'm not surprised with Palmer because I think he had just been more. He's been
Mm,
ice cold, like frozen a little bit this season. He's not really brought it to this season. You know, he struggled in that Chelsea team that clearly has struggled. But so I'm more with you. Like I'm surprised Foden actually because I think Foden, like you say, maybe not as a bang on starter in the first 11, but having something on your bench to like bring it somebody on to unlock either a defense or just to add a different dynamic. And I think he could have done that even if he's not had the minutes for City. You know, if you're potentially coming off the bench and having to play 30, 25, then you know that's yeah. So you kind of want some of that option, and I think not only necessarily for the players that you pick, but I think also just for the psychology of the team as well.
yeah,
To think
absolutely.
actually we've got somebody there who can do something for us rather than who's coming on our
I
sort
know
of
some
thing.
people did say, okay, why is Jordan Henderson there, whereas either of those guys are? It's a different profile player, so that's
Yeah.
a kind of non-argument. But I think it's more, um, who's the other guy who's plays in this position for Palace? Wharton.
Mm.
Having a bit of a change of the guard and giving new blood an opportunity. And Henderson's maybe I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but maybe he included him because he's a senior voice, and who won't maybe see so many minutes. But I don't know if you're going to bring someone just for experience, can you just bring a couple of experienced coaches who've
Yeah.
been there and done it, not take up a squad place? I can't see him getting many minutes. Can you?
No, I can't. I mean, yeah, I can't. And I think you're right. I think Henderson's there more for his experience and for his leadership kind of voice and qualities that he brings. Although I kind of saying to somebody yesterday, actually, there's a bit of redemption there for him, because that move to Saudi clearly didn't work for him. It
Mm,
kind of looked like he might have, really closed the door on his international career because the way that hadn't worked out. And actually, he's brought himself back up and he's forced his way back into the England fold. So, all props to him. Likewise, an ex-Red, Gerard Kwanzaa, who kind of was really
oh yes.
shoved out of the door at Liverpool,
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you
it's
brought him
gone.
up.
It's gone to Leverkusen and it's done and is kind of doing really well over there. And again, forced his way back into the England fold as well. So I kind of pleased it in that sense. But again, for all of these, it's quite interesting, I think, because he sees being able to have a team, and maybe a team of that will change in terms of the personnel, but his focus is more on that team and that collective and how people can play together, as opposed to individuals and individual kind of personalities and egos. Um, and he has had recent kind of club experience here. So yeah, so we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, so I've just pulled up this England squad, if you can see it on your screen now. And for those of you listening back who don't have video, we'll read out the squad in case you've been under a rock. So goalkeepers, Henderson from Palace, Pickford, who's probably going to start as he has for the last few tournaments, and James Trafford. And that's a good story for James Trafford, who I know is very frustrated toward the end of the season because he's been second choice at City, where you're going to be third choice for England, so you'll be sitting on the bench for your national team as well. So no real surprises there. But then when we look at the defenders, Big Dan Burn, I think his first name is Big, just not officially. He was part of that criminal Newcastle defence alongside Livramento that absolutely got assassinated by Newcastle, and he's not had the best of seasons. You know, Newcastle, where they finished, like 10th, 11th, I don't know. So that to me, I think Maguire's essentially, when he's kicking his toys out of the pram and having a whinge, he's essentially saying, "Why is Dan Burn in there?" And I'm not. It's just weird, without naming it. But then my thing is, with the other defenders he's chosen, it's not like he's got loads of experienced players with good injury records. Reece James will probably get injured on a plane going there. We know that John Stones has had problems. He's just exited City, probably because he's not that available. Jed Spence is Jed Spence. He plays for Tottenham and hasn't really even started. So Nick O'Reilly, I look at and I think, oh yes, he's emerged this season, and that is an exciting, if he can get minutes, addition to the first 11. But defensively, I think he's taking big risks. There was that time when you had at right back Kyle Walker, Trippier, and Trent couldn't get past those. Now Trent can't get past Jed Spence. Bizarre to me, if I'm honest. But there you go.
There you go.
So defenders: Burn, Gay, James, Konsa, Livramento, O'Reilly, Quansah, Spence, and Stones. Anyone that you would have swapped out defensively there? Oh, you already said the United lump.
Well, not necessarily put him in, but you know, he's a bit of versatility, isn't it? He plays a defence and he can be quite effective going up front when you need the last minute goal. You know, he scored quite a lot of like last minute headers for United. But yeah, there's nothing much about this England squad overall that fills with any real excitement, to be honest with you. So,
let's go for midfielders.
Really think who we're going. Yeah, go for your midfielders.
Elliot Anderson from Forest. Bellingham, we expect him to start, right?
Yeah.
Abricha, Eze, and Madueka's down as forward. So Abricha, Eze, Henderson, we mentioned, Mainu, Rice, and Rodgers. I think from there, I would expect Rice, Bellingham, and maybe Mainu to start potentially as a 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Forwards: Gordon, Kane, Madueke, Rashford, Saka, Tony, and Watkins. Talk to me about Tony, because he went away to Saudi Arabia, as did Jordan Henderson. No one tracked him or followed him over in England. No one can tell me how he's been performing, what his shape he's in, but clearly England manager thinks he's in good enough shape to take one of those forward spots. Would you have had him ahead of, I know England haven't got loads of great options up front these days, but would you have had him ahead of, say, Calvert-Lewin?
You know, I think Calvert-Lewin is the big one that's missing from that front line, because I think he's, you know, shown what he can do at Leeds. You know, he's scored some really important goals, some important last-minute goals. You know, even if he's kind of quite quiet in the game, he's shown that he can pop up and cause some damage. So that's a surprise for me, I think, with the forward options. But maybe he's not necessarily wanting to be playing long balls and people running onto them. Maybe that's why some of these others are there. It's a different style of football.
Yeah, I think we can expect to see Ollie Watkins deputising for Kane and coming on
Yeah,
because it's going to be
it's
hot,
Kane,
hot,
isn't
hot,
it?
hot, hot. Yeah, he's going to be getting quite a few minutes, I reckon.
Yeah,
Watkins, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and deservedly so. You know, he's had a great season for Villa, so
yeah,
um, I think
yeah.
it's Kane and probably Watkins. I think on the team sheet first of all.
Do you envisage a
But
scenario where England might play two up front, or not right now?
maybe not right now. I think that he'll just want to get through the group stages and qualify for the kind of the knockout. So I think he'll be cautious. That looks like a very cautious squad to me.
Right.
If I'm going to be fair, and I think I don't think it will. I don't think they'll light up the tournament, but I think he's there to be very industrious and
Yeah,
get the job done.
absolutely. And he knows anything less than a semi-final
Yeah,
appearance, people are gonna really go in for
yeah,
him. But
for
it's
sure.
his choice, right? Okay, so look, going back to Liverpool, we do have
Yeah,
the end of season wrap up to come on June the 9th. Jez will be hosting that, and we very much look forward to it. I want to send a special shout out to our contributors throughout the season. We've had Mike, Mr. Samuj, Double S, and more recently Neo, who have all supported the pod ever since that Man United defeat at Anfield. A massive shout, of course, to yourself, Jez, for all the great work you've done, not just on the pod, but pre-match, interviewing fans, all the stuff that you've contributed to LFC Agenda has been fantastic, and we really appreciate that big star. Thank you.
yeah. Well, blessed to be here. It's been therapy. I'm hoping that next season it's going to be a party cast week in week out.
Yes, yeah, we've had quite a few pain casts, which is a term we coined from that United game, and which unfortunately stuck
Yeah,
for month after month. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board, and been
always a
superb
pleasure.
to have your contributions in so many ways, and of course to you guys who have joined us throughout the season and who have suffered the pain with us. We appreciate you as well. We hope that next season will bring a lot more positivity to come. Let's face it, Jez, it can't get any worse, can it? Surely, please tell me it can't get worse.
Please, no, it can't. And do you know what? What was actually quite nice towards the end of the game, I think, before the final whistle went, like I said, we all kind of grow when the ball went up with Tamir. It's just like, we don't want any more of this.
Yeah.
But, they actually were started singing, Three Little Birds, Don't Worry About a Thing.
Oh
And
wow.
that kind
Okay.
of
Well.
it reverbs around the ground. And it's almost a bit of which I think was quite nice. I think it was quite nice for the players to hear that actually, despite probably feeling like everybody's against them and everyone's against, what they've dished out, that actually that there is that connection. I just kind of, yeah, I think the connection there with the fans and the players is the manager, not so much. Not so
Yeah, I
much.
don't think they were singing it to Arne Slot. Although
No,
had they
no.
asked him, they probably would have told us that they were.
Yeah.
Um, but look, whatever happens to the manager, he's given us a league title. He's done the best job he could. It's been very difficult circumstances. I don't want to be one of those people to completely slate his record or be a revisionist around what we saw in those first 12 months and that incredible moment that you yourself experienced in the sunshine, something that we hadn't seen before in our adult lives. And also to the players who, again, they've not reached the standards that we wanted them to, but they've at least delivered Champions League football for next season. So it's always important, Reds, to bear in mind, without telling you how to feel, that it is relative pain. We're not Spurs supporters, we're not Chelsea.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we're probably a bit stronger with Alonso, but we're not like completely in the abyss. It's been
No.
bad, but it's not been the worst we've ever seen. We need to keep things in perspective, keep the faith, and keep our fingers crossed that these players and whoever they bring in are going to come back much better, stronger, wiser, cuter,
Yeah.
and more focused next season. We definitely promise you will be all those things on the LFC agenda.
And
There will be
also,
some
just to
pods.
say as
Yes,
well,
go ahead.
happy May 25th Day, Reds. We are what? 21 years on from Istanbul, the miracle of Istanbul. That is where you keep your faith.
I don't want to see any miracles for English teams on the 30th. Let me say it that
No,
way.
but yeah,
But yes, thank you. Thanks to all our contributors, to our listeners. We'll be back with special pods throughout the summer, I'm sure, with the World Cup going on. And definitely make sure you join us on June the 9th. Hit that notification bell so you know when that episode goes live, or follow us on YouTube. All that's left to say is, for the final time, thank you, and you'll never walk alone.